Hello and welcome. This is a lesson on precipitation. Get ready to learn. Pretty snowflake. Did you know? Heat from the sun causes water to evaporate from Earth's surface, either from the land or from any kind of water, like oceans, rivers, lakes. Water condenses and forms clouds. Precipitation is the water falling to the ground again. It could be either solid or liquid. Solid in snow, sleet, hail. Liquid in rain. Depending on the temperature and humidity, different precipitation falls. And we're going to find out all about that. Now, why is this important? Well, if you lived here, you'd want to know when the flood is coming. Rain and snow come from certain types of clouds. Knowing about water in the air and how clouds form help us to predict the weather. And if we can predict the weather, we can better prepare for disasters. What's important to know? Well, here we go with evaporation and condensation. Water evaporates into the atmosphere as water vapor. Goes from a liquid to a gas. Goes from the oceans where there's a lot of water. It evaporates into a gas. It's invisible. Water then condenses from water vapor into droplets and drops. It goes from a gas to a liquid. So you have evaporation, and then it condenses, and then it falls on the land, and it repeats over and over again. And this is called the water cycle. It's the cycle that the water takes. Now, cloud formation. Water vapor condenses in the air around dust or a condensation nucleus. When water vapor is in the air, it has a certain amount of heat. In order to change states to go from a gas to a liquid, it has to give that heat something. It's got to go somewhere. So water vapor, the gas, gives the heat to a small piece of dust. And it's absorbed by the dust, which means now that water vapor has less energy and can change states from a gas to a liquid, sometimes right to a solid, if it's fast enough. So it gives up some heat to a tiny piece of dust, dirt, or pollen in the air. The liquid drops, or droplets, form clouds and fall as precipitation. There are three major types of clouds: Stratus, Cumulus, and Cirrus. Stratus, these long striated ones. Cumulus, and Cirrus, way up here. Okay, precipitation. Water condenses from a vapor into droplets and drops. We have rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. Now, as you go up in the atmosphere, it gets colder and colder, at least in the troposphere where the weather is. The bottom layer of atmosphere. High up, it's cold. So when droplets either freeze or form as frozen around a condensation nucleus, and they're big enough, they start falling. Now, if they fall through warm air, they melt and come down as rain. Frozen precipitation melts and reaches the ground as rain. If it, in a different area, falls through warm air, but then hits cold air, different layer of air, the frozen precipitation melts into warm air up here, then rain falls and freezes when it hits something cold enough to give up that heat. And so we have rain that comes down as liquid and stays that way. We have freezing rain that comes down as liquid, and then as soon as it hits something that it can give up the heat, it becomes a solid, and that's freezing rain. So we got all warm air and cold air. Now we have a little bit of warm air and a lot of cold air. And this is how sleet is formed. Frozen precipitation melts in shallow warm air, that's up here, then refreezes into sleet before reaching the surface. So it falls through the warm air, melts, and becomes liquid, but then refreezes. Now, sometimes this happens over and over because of the wind. And that brings hail, where you get layers of frozen water coming down. So first we have rain, all liquid. We have freezing rain, which is it melts and then freezes as soon as it can give up its heat and go from a liquid to a solid. Then we have sleet, which it melts in a very small area of warm air and then refreezes on its way down. And then you have an area where there is no warm enough air to melt, and it simply falls as snow. So the different kinds of precipitation depends on the layers of the atmosphere that it falls through. Snow falls through cold air and reaches the surface as a solid. Now, in all of this, water vapor condenses on a piece of dust or other small particle, a condensation nucleus. And then when large enough, it falls as some form of water, whether it's a liquid or a solid. And the solid could be snow, it could be sleet. The liquid could be freezing rain or rain. Okay, the three major types of clouds. Cirrus clouds, they form ice crystals and they're thin and feathery. It's a sign that wet weather is coming because they're so high up in the atmosphere. It's easy to remember they are thin and feathery like a circus horse mane. Circus, Cirrus, very similar sounding. Easy way to remember it. Stratus clouds. They form low in the troposphere in layers that are spread horizontally. Here's a nice picture of stratus clouds. They produce sometimes precipitation, and we can refer to them as nimbostratus, meaning producing rain. And it's easy to remember. Strata means to stretch. There you go. Like the layers here and the person stretching. And then we have cumulus clouds. They're white and puffy clouds that may grow very tall as fair weather clouds. When they produce rain, they are cumulonimbus. Cumulus clouds produce rain. An easy way to remember is you want to accumulate good things, and these are good weather clouds. So that's how you can remember these three major cloud types. You want to accumulate good things. Now, rain. Water vapor condenses around a piece of dust or other particles. It forms tiny droplets. And when enough droplets combine, they form round raindrops. Not the teardrops that you see in cartoons. Rain is round drops. Freezing rain. It's rain that freezes when it hits trees or the ground or anything else. So it's got to get rid of some of that heat that keeps it in a liquid form. And if it can give it up to something that's cold or colder, it can then change states from a liquid into a solid. And these are wires that are coated with ice, trees broken. Hail. Hail forms in thunderstorms when strong updrafts carry rain high in the air. The rain freezes into balls of ice called hailstones. And this may happen over and over again until the hail are as big as baseballs. And when it comes down, get out of the way. It can destroy crops and damage roofs and cause all kinds of trouble. This thing falling out of the sky, you wouldn't want it to hit you in the head. Here's sleet. Remember, sleet is frozen precipitation that melts as it falls and then refreezes into solid before hitting the ground. It's not layered like hail. It doesn't go up and down, gathering layers. Snow. It's a six-sided crystal of frozen water on a condensation nucleus. Somewhere in the center there is a condensation nucleus, a piece of dust, a piece of pollen maybe. Water vapor condenses from a gas directly to a solid. It doesn't even go through the liquid phase. It goes direct from a vapor, gives up its heat to the condensation nucleus and then to a solid. And then it adds and adds and adds and adds. But it's always six-sided, and that's got to do with the way the water molecule is arranged and the angles of the atoms. So why is this important to know about? Rain and snow come from certain types of clouds. Knowing about the water in the air and how clouds form help us predict the weather. We can better prepare for disasters if we can better predict the weather. There's your lesson on precipitation.